bottom-up obstruction consistently because of the physical geometry? Are you
There,
thinking it
there,
would be that way? Or would it be?
there is
Do you agree or disagree with that?
there is for things at distance, depending on the distance, there is an invariance in their altitude and the line of sight, depending on how far away they are. There's a manifest. This invariance day to day seems to be correlate with effects in the atmosphere as they're measured. But even if you take that aside, there are large things that get to a distance where you should be able to see them, but you can no longer see them. They're just beyond the horizon. Before they would get to the point where you can't see them because of like aberrations or just the haze of the atmosphere.
All right, so do you think the bottom-up obstruction, if you want to call it that, or bottom-up obscuration, either way, that effect, do you think that that's caused by the physical curve of the Earth, or is it caused by something else?
Yeah, there's the predominant aspect is the geometry. The secondary aspect, which causes the invariance, is the atmosphere.
So why does it cut off at different distances on different days if it's supposed to be because the curve of the Earth?
Because the atmosphere will change the path of all the light to your eyes to some scale, which will counter or accentuate what's going on. But there's an underlying trend of things at distance, which goes beyond the realms of the range of the invariance we see.
So there's something that turns a ball into a flat plane?
It doesn't. It never completely does that. Even when it's working to create a flatness of some sort.
Well, like for example, like when a boat, like some days, let's say half of the boat is cut off optically, but then on a certain day you can see all the way down, even though it's the same distance away, you see all the way down to the hull. Is a curved Earth flattening out? Is a flat Earth curved? Like what is going on there? In your view,
that's the curve being countered by the effects of the atmospheric changes. Because on the days when you observe a boat like that, if you actually video it, you'll notice that there's lots of haze and wobbling and variance in what you see. It's like when you look at the two rigs in the classic Black Swan. If you want to zoom up on when they were both partially obscured. If you zoom up on all the artifacts on the deck, you see a detailed, nuanced, well color balanced view of the rigs. If you look at the one where you can both see them right to the floor and the horizon appears behind them, they're a hazy, distorted, mishmashy mess.
I have here I have this one which shows an animation of kind of what we're talking about. Because like if that's a GIF that flashes back and forth. I think this one shows them both side by side of the oil rigs. So yeah, that's how dramatically different it can be. So if someone was to say that that's the curve of the Earth on the right, well then on a different day when you see the left, what's going on there? Because now the horizon is extending out like a plane, like as a planar Earth. What I'd say is happening is you're seeing more or less of the plane over a planar Earth, and that's what it seems to be. It reveals the planar nature when you can see further, and when you can't see as far, you're just seeing less of the plane. But for the globe Earth, see, because I'm saying it's planar anyway, so when you're seeing the one on the left, you're just seeing more of the plane. But the globe one, that's the problem. That one doesn't match the globe, and you'd have to invoke something that's making it extend out like a plane, a planar Earth.
Okay, well, which one? We're looking at those two oil rigs. Which one looks more like an oil rig to you?
Yeah, so the thing about the distortion is that on other days and other around the world, you can get where those two, the left and right picture there, where the one on the left will not have that distortion, or even vice versa, where the other one on the right would have the distortion. So that's actually a variable that is not consistent with always seeing further. Obviously, if you see further, there's going to be more effects, though, because there's just more. There could be certain conditions that might be causing that. But what I'm saying is that that's not exclusive to being when you see further. And so that point
isn't it funny how you've all got these images where you can see further, apparently, which don't have these hideous distortions, but you always seem to fall back on this one, which clearly demonstrates.
You mentioned it. You mentioned it, so I posted just the oil rigs.
Yeah. You need to get rid of this. You need to get rid of this pair and get yourself a better pair of images then, because this one with all the distortion, the wibbly wobbly cranes, the bleached out coloring, the profiling, this one's not doing your cause any favor.
Like the infrared ones are really impressive.
Yeah.
But there's tons of images. Yeah, I mean, these you mentioned the oil rigs. I brought them up because it does display exactly what we're referring to in terms of the horizon and the distances. So that's why I brought it up. And it does link
I think the,
that. What I'm
I think
saying is that if you're going to then go to the distortion, I'm just rebutting by saying, well, that in this same phenomenon of seeing further and seeing the horizon at these different distances and so on, sometimes the one on the left where you see further, where the horizon is far beyond what it should be for a globe, would not have that distortion. So that's not it's not exclusive to it. So that's why it's just not like a valid debunk of it.
I'd like to see someone revisit these oil rigs and film it without the distortion.
Yeah.
I don't think he's. Personally, I've never seen these images. I'd like to see them, but really, these two images don't do it justice. If you look at the original video, you realise that when you look at the video of the two oil rigs concealed, they're consistent in colour, position, spatial topology. When you actually look at the video and when he's looking at that distance, you can see how hideously inaccurate the observation is.
Here's one that's somewhat opposite. So this one is same location, same elevation, but different days. And there's two oil rigs at different distances. And what's interesting about this one is that the one on the left, where the horizon looks like it'd be closer, is the one that's actually more distorted. You see the width of it is expanded out. It's like fatter and there's more distortion. Whereas the one on the right is where you can actually see further and it's more clear, more crispy clear. You can see the detail and the orientation is not all squished. So this is a little bit the opposite, where the further, it's a decent example of somewhat of the opposite, where yeah, the one on the right where you see further, where the horizon is far beyond, is more clear. The one on the left is more distorted, and that's the closer one.
Yeah.
So you agree that bendy crane is really not a valid point to make on that?
Well, it is a valid point to make. I mean, this is two complete. Again, you can't tell from one to the other.
So how does a bendy crane make the Earth planar?
The bendy crane does not make the Earth planar. The bendy crane is an indication that you've got substantive strata of different temperature or density air between you and the thing you're observing. Therefore, the path of light rays from every part of the crane at various altitudes arriving at your eye arrive at different angles. That's why it's like a hall of mirrors. When you go in front of a bendy hall of mirror, you see every part of yourself, but every part is altitudinally distorted at different rate. That's because the light rays are arriving at your eye, not on a consistent single point observational symmetry that you'd anticipate. They're arriving in different arcs. What other explanation could there be for the bendy crane? The light from each part of the crane is taking a different path.
What do you think the differential angle from the center of your eyeball would be to the target? Like, what is the what is the angle, do you think, that you need to take into consideration for your arcing from the horizon of those rigs to your eyeball? Is it 5 degrees?
No.
Would that be enough?
No.
How much to the horizon?
No. You'd have to know the distances. You'd have to know the distances of the things and the height of the things specifically, and you could work out how much they're changing in altitude, and that would give you the angular distortion. There are simulations that run this graphically. You must have seen the simulation of this phenomena taking place graphically on the computer. Someone's calculating it.
Well, you invoked the path of light, and the path of light is either coming straight into your eye or, as you say, arcing. But like your field of view and the perspective of the way everything works in the distance, I can't see it being such a wide angle.
Okay.
I don't know if you get what I mean, but it sounds a little bit like you're kind of making stuff up.
Okay, if you think I'm making stuff up, that's fine. It's a battle between your incredulity at what I'm saying and your ability to discern whether I'm being honest or not.
Did you see that map, Geo? The one that what's his name posted in the live stream text? Maybe I can post it again.
I gotta go, guys. I'm at work. I'll speak to you later on.
Ciao. This one here. That was what's his name posted it? Vara.
Yeah.
I don't know where Vara got it from, but it's the way. Is that the Mercator map? Is that what he said? Mercator? However you say the name.
It is called the oblique Mercator projection.
Okay. Do you know that what they actually say is that the Goals Peters map is more precise? That's what they say. I mean, I don't know if that's just a meme or in reality. I haven't checked on like their authoritative sources like Wikipedia or anything to fact check like what they actually say. But apparently they say the Mercator is not accurate. In reality, the measurements, and the shape of the continents, right, in proportion to each other in scale. Yeah,
Well, I
I'm
never
not
heard
sure
of
this
this. Who? What did
this
you say?
Mercator
What
map,
was it?
the Gold Peters map.
Paul Peters.
Yeah,
I'm interested to check that out.
there's been quite a few memes about it, and there was like some TV show talking about it within the narrative. I wish I had a link for it right now. I'll show you.
Gal Peters projection, a rectangular equal area world map that shows countries and continents in their true size relative to one another.
So maybe
Yeah.
that map that you got, you'd have to switch the models, right? I mean, just slightly, right?
That one's like a 3-pole. That's a 3-polar.
Oh no, it's
He-
two pole, but it's
He said it still works like
we talked about this
a dual pole,
earlier.
right?
That's the one that the Ether Cosmology, Alan, and those guys. That simulator or that modeling simulator that they presented. Remember, it had this projection, the 3-pole one as well.
You mean
It had
Ronnie and
it had
Jason?
no, Alan and Shane and the Ether Cosmology guys. I don't know if you've seen that. They did a presentation on it maybe like a few months ago, few weeks, few
really?
months. But yeah, I can grab you the link for it, or it's on here. There's
So do you think that's not compelling at all?
But anyways, I'm saying they have this tripole one, they have a dual pole one, they have the Gleason's AE map single pole, and then they have the globe. Those are like the 4 main ones they have. And I'm just saying they have that 3-pole one as well.
Well, this is not a 3-pole map though. 2 poles. It's just one of them is visually in half. So you have basically 2.5 poles. You want to look at it that way, but no, it's just in visual. Virtual game, video game simulation ways. The way you have to look at it. Go from one side of the map, you cross from one side, you come back from the opposite side.
Yeah, because you have to
How it works.
utilize and recognize the time zones, right?
Well, it is. The time zones are visualized here also.
So you have to orientate and navigate around the map. Just you wouldn't know if you're on the globe or not. I mean, you wouldn't know that you're not on the globe, right? You'd think you are on a globe if you were told, because there's no way that you would know. Like, because there's some areas on this map which are restricted from you being able to go in a particular cardinal direction, right?
Well, no, it's just if you're talking about directions, all it is showing here is north and south and east and west in relation to those poles. If you follow this map with a compass, you will get to exactly where you're trying to go.
And
Because if you follow
would
south,
G-
you're always gonna
Here it
come
is.
across a ice wall, so to speak.
Vara, here. Are you at your computer? Do you want to look at this? I mean, I could pull it up, but I'm.
Yeah.
If you want to pull it up, or that's the link to the actual. The first one is the link to
Okay.
the code to it. I think I had because it was in the pinned messages. But then the other one is the actual models. So you can just open that on any web browser, and it'll
Yeah, I
take you
see.
to this really amazing.
Well, this is just an AE map, though.
Yeah, so you can click. There's a ton of options on it down at the bottom, and there's several different projections.
Okay.
Yep, there's a
Let's
bunch
see.
of them.
If
It's there's a bit of a steep learning curve because there's a lot of options on it. And when you open up the actual option panel, there's even more things you can turn on and off. But yeah, you can move
yeah, I'm
through
trying.
the Gleason's AE map, single pole type, well, like northern centered pole, and then there's the dual pole. There's that tripole, or what I'm calling the tripole, but it has kind of three poles like layout, and then there's the globe one. And yeah, you can do like day and night cycle, the star
Well,
field, what we see, like the planetarium kind of stars basically that we see, the hemispherical region of sky. It's pretty awesome. Yeah, there's a ton of different features on it. But yeah, you can look at the different
Well, yeah, I
projections.
just want to find the oblique Mercator thing here, so I can see if it's strawman or not. Modeling. You. Observer camera. Damn it. I'm too tired for this kind of stuff. Map projection.
All right, do you see down at the bottom
I found
where
it.
it says, okay,
I found it.
wait, did you? Okay, it should be a button that says FE. It's down from all the buttons on the lower left, from the bottom row,
Found
3 to the left.
found
See where it says
show.
FE? Where it says FE, if you click that once, it'll go
GE.
from
Okay.
FE to GE,
Okay.
FE to
I see.
GE, which is globe, and then you
I
click it
see.
one more time, it goes to DP, which is dual pole,
I see.
and then one more time it says CP, which
Yeah.
is I guess like we'll have to look at what the exact projection is.
Oh, I see.
It's the type of projection, and that's the one that is the one you posted, basically the 3 pole.
No, it's not. No, it's not. It is posting the map, assuming that it's 3 poles, not understanding that it's actually just what I described. This is trying to this is completely straw manning. Yeah.
Here, I'm gonna if you want to look at the screen share, I'm just gonna pull it up at this point for a second. Can you see it? All right.
Trying to navigate this. Oh, I see. Oh, I see now. Okay. Oh, so they. Okay. Okay. Yeah. That's kind of oblique Mercator. Okay, so what was their kind of summary conclusion on this? Do you remember? About this tripolar thing? Did they just say, well, Does that make sense? Because it's tripolar.
Yeah, I don't think it works because we have 2 poles. Doesn't seem like there's 3. We've talked about like a quadrupole in the past, which is pretty interesting. And I do think the whole realm is quadrupole in a way because you have north, south, east, west, the 4 corners of the earth. So that is a quadrupole. But the way the actual sky works is 2 poles, 2 ethereal vortexes, which is the way
nobody's saying that there's 3
the way a
poles.
magnetic field works, with the north and south, and plus and positive, negative. And there's so many things in our world, like the sun and the moon, left and right, hot and cold. There's so many dualities, and the sky seems to have those 2 poles. And so, the land would have to be laid out under the 2 poles. There's really no other way I can see it, because unless like somebody could show, like I've always said, like there's like a ground position of every star. And if you just freeze frame the sky, every star would have a ground position at that moment. And if that's consistent, then that means that if the sky is 2 poles, then the ground is 2 poles. Now, if the GPs are not consistent, and there could be like more than one GP for a star, for example, or they're not consistent, then that would be different, because then you could have like reflections or different kinds of things going on. But yeah, if it's consistent, it would be fixed. One GP exclusive for one position on the ground, of every star. So,
but it's not
if there's only one GP for every star, which there is, I've never seen any evidence of anything other, then it would have to be laid out with 2 poles, just like the 2 we see in the sky. But the tripole one, the issue with that is that
it's not 3 poles. That's what I'm trying to say.
But you see the magnetic field line here? I'll go back to it on the screenshot, to this one. Well, it pretty much is, because the latitude lines extend south into 2 different regions. So this is like a tripole magnetic field.
Oh, it's the same region, man.
Like if I go through these really quick,
it's just Antarctica,
this one
cut in half.
Like this area. This like northern centered singular pole basically makes Antarctica the ring around the outside. So that's one. This one's the globe, which obviously everyone knows that model. And then this one shows the dual pole. And you see how this one, like the magnetic field lines are going from one to the other. And so that's what we actually see in terms of like the equator is straight. And then the latitude lines all going north, they all like arc towards the north. Then the ones going south in like a symmetrical way, they all arc to the south. So we actually, there's like there's 2 poles in that way. And then the one rotation that everybody sees in the south. So that's why that one matches the sky. Whereas this one, the kind of 3 pole one, now you would have like 2 outer regions where the longitude lines are converging. Although this one's a little even different than the one you were showing too, though.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's a straw man.
No, this one would be 3 poles though, because you have like one in the center there, and then there's the one going down to the left, like Australia. Then there's this other one going down to the right, where like Africa is.
But if you go down, right between the crack there, you go south, or let's say down from Africa, right? Are you gonna come up from the other side? Does it give you any indication that would be the case?
This one is kind of a trip. Yeah, there'd have to be a lot of distortions going on. This one is pretty wild. Well, because see, I'm kind of like above the North Pole right now. Yeah, so this is why it's a tripole, because like you have one off to the left, you have that going on over there, and then off to the right, you got this going on over here.
Well, from this perspective, it looks like it's a three pole, right? I understand that. But we
Yeah.
have to look at from where we are in Earth and how we would look at it.
I mean, this is the one that everyone knows about, the kind of singular centered pole. And this one is pretty cool in a lot of ways, but does it really match the South? And obviously there's a whole discussion of this one. And then the globe, I mean, it's an interesting idea. I really don't think it's the case, so it's kind of just not true. It is interesting, like it's just kind of remodeling the sky and making it the ground, and then extrapolating a conceptual model from it. That's all it really is. Just an extrapolation from the way the sky actually works onto like a presumed surface with some alterations. And then this one, which people refer to as the dual pole, this one matches the sky, and that's the thing about the singular GP. But there's still questions about this one that would, I think, for myself, I would want to have answered and understood for myself more fully. And this may not be the exact map, but it really does seem like there are two, you know, the way they call them hemispheres in the globe, the northern and southern. Well, they just say that they're like the top and bottom of a ball. But if from the perspective that the Earth is actually planar, it would just be two sections of the Earth. Basically one region, and then you can cross the equator and go to the other region. Then you can cross back over the equator and go to the other region. Kind of like we have two lobes in our brain, left brain and right brain, and we have a left and right arm, left and right leg. Anyways, but there's a lot of like dualities in nature, and sort of like the yin yang symbol has that kind of as well. But yeah, it just seems like you're either in the north and you're circling around the northern one and you can see the Big Dipper and Polaris and all that, or you go to over in the equator where everything straightens out, then you keep going, and then you're in this whole southern region where there's a whole nother swirl of stars, and then there's a transition zone in between. So whether you can go like around a ball is still like, yet to be determined, if that's really, whether they're actually going around a ball, or whether they're just going around two circular regions. That would be the difference. Two circular planar regions. But yeah, and this one matches the path of the sky. But yeah, go ahead.
Can you go back to the tripole real quick? Yeah, what's the deal with that landmass at the top being split in two?
Yeah. It's not accurate representation of the map.
Sorry, I was trying to maybe turn off the just to have it be daylight the whole time. What were you unless someone knows which button it is offhand, I don't have it memorized right now. I haven't seen this in a little bit.
No, he was saying like the top landmass at the top.
Yeah, I guess that's the Russia or something.
Oh, it's split up here?
Yeah.
It's not an accurate representation of the map.
Yeah, that's an entire just land split in two right there. I mean, this one is pretty cool.
I mean, I'm assuming this is just a projection of the globe. Like, I assume we're not suggesting there's two Antarcticas, right?
That has been a theory that people have had over the years, the idea that Antarctica is actually two separate regions. So that is one idea that people have had, yeah, one theory. Like that instead of a ring around the outside, that it's actually two regions, yeah. I'm just saying that is a theory, is all I'm saying. I'm not necessarily asserting it. I'm just saying that is one idea. And maybe when people thought that, maybe it was more under an AE map kind of idea, though. Some people have it like with the AE map that instead of a ring around the outside, it's like two two regions.
If you just look at the map, though, and
I mean, the
it's
thing
not
is, like
it's not
so. I mean that like okay, so this one, the Gleason's northern centered. I mean, we could talk about this one, but I do think this one has a lot of challenging things. Like definitely the distances in the south that are so huge. For them to be hiding that from us would be significant. But anyways, that would need to be proven if those distances really are that great in the south. The globe one, I mean, yeah, there's just no curvature, no motion. Like it's not a globe. And then this two pole one does make the most sense with the way that the world is, because this one is like it's basically a sphere, like it's the coordinates of a sphere, but it's on a plane with two poles. Meaning, if you took a sphere and then put it kind of through the ground, basically, or like put it into the ground, it would map out with the two poles like that, and then the equatorial region. So it's like it's like
sounds like you're describing a projection.
it's like a stereographic projection of spherical coordinates onto a plane, is what it would be. It's a stereographic projection of spherical coordinates, and stereographic because like stereo left and right, so it'd be two. So you'd have the two, and then the coordinates, because they all how all the longitude lines converge at the poles, and then they're straight at the equator. That's why this one also matches, ironically, a sphere in a certain way too. That's why I think like sometimes New Perspective will say it's like a flat sphere, or he's made different like jokes like that and stuff, or just talked about it. But it would just be flat, but it would have like the layout of it for whatever, probably just because the magnetic field of the sky would basically somehow probably be connected to the ground. So I mean, this one matches like all those facets of it, and also ironically matches a sphere just enough that they could have deceived the whole world that it was a sphere, because it actually is a plane that has the two poles with the sky that has the two poles, but it's flat. But the plane is flat, planar.
I wouldn't say it matches just enough. I'd say it matches in a pretty big way.
The globe one. Let's go back to the globe one. Is this what you're saying matches?
No, I'm saying as a projection, the Gleason's north-centered matches. I mean, if you consider it to be a projection, it would be a perfect one.
Of what?
Of a sphere.
This one here?
Yeah.
Well, this is instead of stereographic, this is doing like an azimuth projection, where you would take a sphere and then instead of pushing it through with the two poles from the side, this one you'd be coming down straight. And so if you came from the north, then you'd be making like a north centered. But then in the south, this is just like hypothetically spread out. So that's kind of the issue. Whereas if you were to do like another azimuthal projection of the southern side of the globe and the northern side, you would have like two flat azimuthal equidistant projections, like two of them. And that's what kind of the dual pole ends up being. So that's what I'm saying. This one, like, okay, even if it was a sphere or whatever, like even if it was a sphere, let's say, if you were to take a sphere and put the continents on it, and then you were to flatten it from the top, basically, the thing is, the north would be fairly consistent because you're just going from curved to flat, but then the south would be completely distorted because even if it was a sphere, that would all be wrapping around the bottom side of the sphere. So even from the perspective that this is a projection of a globe, it's completely distorted in the south and does not represent it's only accurate somewhat in the north, even if it was a sphere, right?
I mean, kind of. I have trouble divorcing the scale of it. Like when you go back to the version that has all the grid lines on it, the latitude, longitude, like I can, yeah, like that one. I can understand that those like the circles towards the edges are straight lines ish, right? Like they're great circles. They're gonna, well, I guess not great circles, but they're circular, right? And I can understand that big sweeping arc from the equator to, I guess, either North or South Pole, that the distances are not as they're represented here, right? Like, I don't take this to be the actual shape of the Earth. I take it to be, again, a projection, right? And that those distances have meaning. Those distances can be measured to be what we would expect if those lines were straight.
Okay, which lines? I'm not. I've followed pretty much everything, but which lines specifically?
Go back to the dual pole. Yeah, so the lines that make ovals on either side of the equation, right? We have other lines that go from the north and the south that are basically just almost circular, right? Those distances between the ovals are going to be much more consistent going from, I guess, Africa outwards than this represents. I'm not doing a great job at explaining myself, but does that make any kind of sense?
Yeah. No, keep going if you want. I'm actually. I was going to pull up an image. I'm hearing what you're saying.
Because basically, and I've made this argument before, every flat map seems to result, when you take these scales into consideration, they seem to resolve back to the same globe, right? We can make different kinds of projections, azimuthal, Mercator, whatever you want to make. Azimuthal, even not north-centered, but you center it on really any part of the world.
Well,
you'll get the same kinds of distortions, and they'll all resolve back to a globe.
All right. So, can you see this one here?
Yeah.
All right. So this is really the key thing of what we were talking about before, and just to see if we agree. So, okay, you have the sphere in the middle there, and then the vertical wall is what I was calling the stereographic projection of spherical coordinates. So that vertical wall would represent stereographic projection of spherical coordinates. If you were to basically move that sphere horizontally into that vertical wall and then project all of those. And because it's onto a flat surface, obviously there's distortions, to the way it is on a sphere to a degree. And I think that's what you're maybe alluding to, like the change in the ovalness or the radius value basically of the points in the center, like the radius changes.
Essentially, yeah. If you go up and down that, right, you see all those the lines that are going off the page on the side. Like, if we measure those in real life,
yeah,
we would get more. We would get closer to the distances that are on the sphere that's floating in the center.
Okay, so we could discuss that, and then the one on the bottom is like the azimuthal layout. And so if you were to go, like the way that's hanging says north at the top there, if you were to take just the southern part of it, you could project that down, and then you could expand out the north, which you've seen those maps, right? You've seen it where it expands the north instead of the south, probably.
Yeah.
So that's just inverted. So with the north one, they would be taking the north and expanding the south. So either way, that projection for a globe would just be problematic if you're going to try to put both of them on one azimuthal projection, even if it was a sphere. But I know what you mean. I do think like that azimuthal projection and the sphere model do seem to have a certain relationship, and they've tried to make that like the kind of mainstream flat Earth model too, or whatever. So I don't think that's probably a coincidence that that's the one that was talked about the most or whatever. But anyways, so yeah, just on that one's just not kind of an ideal projection for a globe either. And then compared to what our actual world is, like, does that one actually match like the distances in the south? Is Antarctica really a massive ring around the outside? Because that one takes basically the 90-degree south point and it expands it out to the outer rim of the whole world. meaning just that South Pole basically is split into, and then Antarctica gets put all the way around the outside. Although with the other kind of dual pole ones, when you make Antarctica a continent, it seems to put the Pacific Ocean as the rim around the outside, which I think is interesting, the term Pacific Rim. But it puts the Pacific Ocean around the outside, and that changes certain things as well. But then I always like link it to, because on the globe Earth, like basically half of the globe is the Pacific Ocean. So that's the thing that ends up being the rim around the outside for the dual pole. And there would have to be a pretty big some level of a cover up of what the Pacific Ocean is if that was the case.
Yeah.
Because the globe claims you just go right around the other side of the ball, whereas the two pole, that's what it really spreads out. Because if you took a globe and kind of just split it open and then put it like with the two poles like that on that vertical wall, it's going to match certain components. And that's why like the northern based AE map is pretty accurate. And then you can have a southern based AE map that's pretty accurate as well. So it's pretty much already what we have.
Yeah, I mean, I think any projection is going to match to some degree. I think the north-centered AE has the singular problem of the distortions in the south that you can, or have often been rationalized as like, you can hide those distances in GPS or ocean distances and stuff like that. But I don't know, ultimately I don't see how this could accurately be reified into an actual territory, I guess. Well, I suppose like the one discrepancy are those distances, right? Like if we could measure those, we'd be pretty much set. I mean, the whole thing hinges on the distances that we have being inaccurate.
Yeah. Oh, so this one right here, well, I think some of the distances we're given may be inaccurate. Yeah, not all necessarily. But this one here, which is the kind of single pole, Gleason's AE map, etc. See how like half of it, like where this darkness is going right now, pretty much like that's the whole Pacific Ocean. So it's even like half of this one as well. But that distance is huge there. So if that was really what the world is, then that would actually be able to be measured, and somebody could confirm like, whoa, that distance is way off. And I've never seen evidence of it. I mean, we've been talking about it for years, and I mean, it would be a huge project to measure it ourselves. And then there's all the arguments of flight, and there are some interesting kind of counter arguments to all of that. But the way the globe has the two poles, this one, the kind of dual pole type of layout, does seem to account for that issue as well. Because with this one, because the southern continents, they all kind of center around Antarctica. The way the northern ones center around the North Pole, like Canada, Russia, everything, coming off the North Pole. The ones off the South Pole also seem to likely be grouped to where they're looking at the same rotation of stars. Because just like for us in the north, if somebody's in Canada, somebody else is in Russia, somebody else is in wherever, they're all seeing like the same North Pole. They're seeing the same Polaris. They can even like fly in an airplane, keep it in their sights the whole time, and see that they actually are going around Polaris. And so you can also do that in the south. And I'm just saying this map here, or this type of layout, basically makes the southern distances more similar to what they claim it is on the globe. So this one would not necessarily have that conflict. Like this one would match what the globe says and would like be more easily understood how they deceived us it was a globe with this one. Because the point when you're mentioning about that single pole one, yeah, I agree. The southern distances are a huge difference on this one.
Yeah.
Because they're all literally spread out all the way across the world, tens of thousands of miles, however big we think it is.
Yeah. The other issue with this kind of stuff, and I guess that it's one of the other main contentions, I guess this isn't exactly a caustic, but the thing the light does as it goes from like one, quote, hemiplane to the other hemiplane, like that also to me just makes more sense on a sphere.
Wait, what effect?
Like this thing that the light is doing, right? Like it's sometimes referred to as a coffee cup caustic or something, but just the fact that light is doing this warbly, wavy, wonky thing that's not necessary on a sphere. Like on a sphere, that effect is a lot simpler.
I think somebody had said at one point, I think it was actually Stargrazer, and he was saying that the idea of like a higher dimensional sphere that's like transmuted down to a plane, the way he said it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you know what he's saying, right? So
That's the trip.
effectively what he's saying, yeah, but what he's saying essentially is that it's a sphere. I mean, you could say it's higher dimensional. I don't know why he's skipping the third dimension, because that would be the higher dimensional would be the third dimension.
No, but if you had
Or
like, all right, let's say you were just an infinite creator and you could create anything you wanted. So you created this whole world with the land and everything, and you're like, all right, what sky am I going to install here? I'm going to install a sky. Okay, well, first of all, if you're already a creator or creating things like that, you probably already created every option in the book. But nonetheless, let's just say that it was going to make this one, whatever this one is, you know. If you think this is the only one, then okay, then this would be the only one. If you don't think this is the only, you know, place, only realm, consciousness, etc., then you would consider that there's already been many others, and maybe there was other kinds. Is doesn't mean the actual Earth is a sphere, because the Earth doesn't seem to have any curvature or motion, and our ancestors have always known it's a stationary plane as well. Seem to have any curvature or motion, and our ancestors have always known it's a stationary plane as well. But yeah, so I think what it decided to create was like this, yeah, that type of sky that has that spherical geometry to it, but that does seem to be just what the sky is, and the ground is planar. And that's why it has a spherical nature. Like the whole combination has a spherical nature, but the actual ground is not curving. And I think that's what like ultimately is the truth in terms of the ground itself. Sorry.
yeah. No, it's hard for me to like, because I think we just fundamentally disagree on the premises. Like, I do think the ground has been measured to curve, and I think we can demonstrate motion. But even just taking that on its face, what Stargazer said, I find that indistinguishable from just the Earth as a sphere. If you want to say that all of the geometry is measured spherical, even though it's flat, like this would be the kind of space distortion, like the kind of distortion that would distort the rulers, even the meter sticks, that I I can't rectify by saying it is flat, but it measures curve. You know what I'm saying? Like if it were some higher dimensional thing that's distorting space to act in a certain way, that to me is just a sphere by all rights. Like I kind of get his argument, but it just that what I hear when he says that is it's a sphere.
Well, I was trying to somewhat replicate the way he described it. It probably wasn't even fully accurate, and I was kind of a shortened version of
I've
it.
heard him say it. I think I've talked to him about it. In fact, I don't know if it was him, but
Yeah.
I've heard the same. Yeah.
Well, I think we had talked about it a few times, and yeah, I mean, I do like whatever his personal views are. Like he has his views, but I think we were talking about, and he was posting things that was showing it as well. The idea of like a higher dimensional sphere that's essentially, in some ways, kind of transferred to a plane. and it having to be like a physics dimensional shift, which does make sense in a lot of ways. I mean, I guess like you were saying, you think curvature has been measured. I really don't think so. Well, let me ask you this. So if there was like a whole, like we've talked about this idea, if there was like a team that was going to come together to do all the tests and everything that would be needed, I assume you may even be interested in being on that team if that was a thing. And then if so, all the actual tests that we would need to do to measure for curvature that we could do, or just whoever's doing that like could do, would be things that have never been done before that would definitively confirm whether there's curvature or not. So how confident are you that it does exist, that if you were on that team, you'd be like, oh yeah, guys, we are going to find that curve out here? Because I'm saying like in this idea, like it would, let's just say there's like, indefinite funding.
Mm-hmm. So I think these kinds of things could be, when you say definitively, like I would wonder what that looks like, because to me it is pretty definitive already. And I think the only issue is people needing to see this stuff firsthand, right? So to me, if I had infinite funding, I would just take every skeptic to space. And if that doesn't resolve the issues, then we're in that territory of the world is bending and warbling in a way that, again, with rulers and meter sticks, and then it's just unfalsifiable. Then there is no definitive test at all. But it would be something like that, where you personally can view the whole thing, and there's just no more question. So if it were that kind of thing, I'd be really confident.
Well, okay, so I'm referring to like tangible measurements that have never been done before, and we would be basically they'd be done for the first time. My point is saying that.
Well, like what? Like maybe a more practical example. Like what would that look like?
Well, okay, well we could go into the details, but I guess what I'm more like, I think the overall main point I was just saying is that, okay, so let's say that I'm here and I'm saying, okay, the Earth is planar. You're there, you're saying, no, the Earth is curved. I would have all my reasons why it's planar. You would have all your reasons why it's curving. And then we could get into like, okay, well, then what evidence do we have? And we could go through all those evidences, which we obviously have at length, and we could do that. We could, we could have a whole show that would, you would lay out all of your evidence for an hour. I would lay out evidence for an hour. We could go through all of that. Then there's certain people may draw certain conclusions from that. But then what I usually use the word tangible to get into the category of doing tangible tests that are actual physical, verifiable, like you can put your hands on it, essentially, tangible measurements and things. Those, now I know there's some claims that they've been done by the tow tanks and some of these things, but what I'm saying is that if there was like an independent team that was actually doing those tests for the first time, my kind of like hypothetical example, as for you to consider, like if that team existed and if that team was going to do these tests that have never been done, and if that team had quote unquote globe earthers and quote unquote flat earthers or planar earth, etc., that anyone that has that either questions a globe or that the earth is a stationary plane. I mean, that term flat earth has kind of been associated with that, even though I don't think the ancients really called it that. But anyways, so yeah, so then we would get to, so what I'm saying is that let's say there was a team or people on both sides essentially, and the most skilled people that were going to actually do these tests. My point to you is that a lot of those tests would be the first time they'd ever be done. And if it did show a globe, that would obviously be the first time it's ever actually tangibly been measured, in an independently verifiable way. If it shows planar, then that is also a breakthrough in tangibly measuring water or the earth at a distance that is much more exclusive and conclusive, and I think would be for a lot of people on either side, as it were. just taking it from a neutral perspective for the conversation's sake.
Well, I guess the reason I would want to be on that team is to make sure that the experiment is an actually valid one, that it's exclusive to one or the other, or that it actually controls for whatever the mitigating variables would be that would otherwise be ignored, so to say. Because other than that, like I don't know, I wonder as to the practicality of that, considering everything that we do know and all the things that have been done. Like I guess I don't know what else there is to do, like except for, again, it all seems to boil down to people need to be the ones on that team, right? Like they need to know, not just trust someone when they say we've measured the distances from one coast to another or across oceans. Like they need to do it themselves. So I think everything that could be done has been done. It just hasn't been done by them themselves, and that's kind of the issue. Like I don't think it's a problem with the actual experiment needing to be done. It's about who's done it.
Well, I guess it depends on to what level of confirmation one would want about the actual shape of the Earth. But I mean, we could go through obviously all the claimed evidences that currently exist. I don't find any of them compelling that they actually are validating any curvature of the ground. And I could go through all the reasons why, obviously, and we could go through all those if we want. But at the same time, okay, I do think there's a lot of things that are very strong for the Earth being planar. I mean, plane surveying is one of them. Within 100 square miles, they do plane surveying. That could be a 10 by 10 mile stretch, and you could have as much as 66 feet of curve that would have to be accounted for. And that's just when they do plane surveying and all using planar coordinates and so on. So I think that there's arguments there, and I do think it's already strongly shows. And then with geodetic surveying, there's always calculations and assumptions and GPS and all these other facets involved. But at the same time, with all the things that could be argued for the planar side, at the same time, I can be completely in intellectual honesty to say that it would be nice to have like tangible measurements, that are even more robust than what currently seems to exist, that I've seen anywhere. And if someone has one, then yeah, present it. But and it would take a lot of like energy to even do these. So I'm just saying, like, to confirm it's planar, like I do think plane surveying is very strong, and I think a lot of arguments, obviously water being level, like all kinds of things, level never be, level's never been shown to be curving either, like level is always horizontal. Like there's all those arguments and so on. But at the same time, do we have like absolute tangible validation that the surface of water is perfectly level in a way that's tangible and confirmed?
I would say so. But so a couple things.
The water is flat.
First of all,
perfect. That it's not curving.
That it's level, not that it's flat.
Okay, well, a minute ago I said if that level is horizontal, so I thought you understood what I meant. I meant like what I'm saying.
No,
okay,
I disagree with that.
This is okay. Let me just finish my thing real quick. I'll totally pass the mic. Let me just kind of say this last part of it. Okay, like now going to just complete hypothetical world as well. Like if we go to the hypothetical, I've made this joke sometimes, but let's say the United Nations is like, all right, guys, those of you that think it's planar and stationary, get up there and tell us, give us an hour presentation that the Earth is planar and stationary. We'll change the whole world if we're convinced. I just make this as it's like a joke, kind of thing. But so you're there, you got an hour presentation with the United Nations, and you're going to tell them all your evidence. Okay, what do we currently have for the Earth being planar and stationary? Yes, there is an enormous amount of information, and yes, somebody could put together a really good 1 hour presentation. However, like the just cold, hard evidence that's like even more verifiable, well, that's what gets into the tangibility and having actual tangible measurements to where, okay, let me ask you this. Do you think tangible measurements that show that Earth is not curving could change the whole paradigm?
Tangible measurements that show the Earth is not curving.
Because if you had
No.
that at that United Nations meeting, and you actually showed like, okay, we have 10, completely confirmed physical, tangible measurements of water not curving and or the land not curving, and then you were able to present them all, and you like people could even come visit them ideally, like they could be like public sites where you could come for free and just see it. See if you had that evidence for United Nations, like cold, hard, tangible proof that that water is not curving, that the Earth is not curving at the rate they say. But my whole point is, I guess that like if you didn't have that, could you be convincing within an hour? And my whole main point to that was to say that like anyone, even who is asserting that the Earth is planar and stationary, do they actually have what I'm referring to? Tangible physical
Right.
measurements. And you might think it's too high of a standard, but I think there's a lot of Globe Earth folks that would like to see that as well, and that would even want to, do those tests. And like I said, I don't think they've been done yet to a level that can be fully like conclusive in terms
Well,
of the cold hard evidence. Now, I'm not saying conclusive to an individual, because an individual could know like if there is a truth, the individual could know the truth. So obviously people can know the truth, but I'm saying, can they prove it to a level of that paradigm shifting type measurements? Like, would you agree or disagree that the tangibility changes that? And then, yeah, what do you think of all that?
well, the tangibility is really my sticking point, because I don't I don't hold to the premise that um, first order direct measurements are better. Right? I keep hearing that, and I keep disagreeing with it. Um, I feel like that's kind of the space in which flat Earth continues to live, is in the ask being something where, because even in those models that you were showing, right? Like everybody on the globe side agrees that the Earth looks flat locally, right? And the whole point is that the flat Earth is an individual kind of thing, right? Like if you take one viewpoint, then yeah, everything's going to look flat, everything's going to measure flat, even because you don't have enough, um, you don't have wide enough tolerances to get a curve in there. But the moment that you start putting together multiple viewpoints, the moment you start putting multiple perspectives together, you get a quote, pardon the pun, a global view of things. Things are far more difficult to resolve as flat, right? So I feel like that's kind of in the nature of the claim to say, trust your eyes, do your own measurements, do your own research. The whole keeping things individual, and doubting anything that comes from anybody else, like that kind of coordination might be something that cinches this, but it's kind of left out of bounds, and it feels sometimes almost intentionally so. So I don't know what tangible measurements would work for that, because every kind of measurement that I feel like could work is not tangible in the way that I think you mean it. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like definitive proof, if that's your bar for the United Nations or whatever, sure. But I don't know what that will look like either. So I don't know. The tangible measurements is kind of the sticking point for me. So I don't know.
Wait,
After the 1 hour, it would probably make too much sense. They would order him
what's
killing
the
on
reason
the
it's a
spot.
sticking point?
Because I don't know what tangible measurements means. Like, I don't know how that's different from what we already have, except that it would be something that you could do on an individual level, which kind of defeats the whole purpose.
All right,
Because the globe is only revealed through a, quote, global perspective,
I got you. Yeah. So, well, I would say for that
Did he dip or?
oh, can you hear me? Sorry.
Yeah.
So, okay, so what I would say is this, in terms of measurements of the actual surface, like if anything is optical, then there just always seem to be some range of like ways that the theories of refraction and the optics are playing a role, to where there are a lot of strong arguments and everything like in all of that. But I don't think any of that's going to like change the paradigm. Like even if someone published a whole paper, they still just have like their way to kind of, in my opinion, sort of cover that up with refraction theories and stuff, to the point to where like that's probably not going to like change the whole paradigm. But that's because it's all in the realm of optics. And then if you have something like GPS, okay, well that is interesting, and it be, but at the same time, we really can't validate the way that system is fully working. But you could compare that to the physical world. But to compare it accurately, you then need to go to the tangible. So now you go to the tangibility. So like I said, the first one's optics, the second one's GPS, which is a system, that obviously governments and so on, run, etc. And that's the whole topic in and of itself. And then you have tangible. And when I'm saying tangible, something that is like a physical measurement in the physical world, not using optics, but using actual physical materials that you can confirm whether water is curving at that rate. And I hear you, it is a difficult thing to prove. And that's why really no one's done it. Like even, I mean, I think on the planar side we have in a way, but not even like, well, there's more that would need to be done in the tangibility department, I'm saying, to really be able to have that, because it would change. I think there would be a huge amount of people that would stop thinking it's a globe to have tangible measurements of actual planar water that is like something that's never even been done before, to really validate that. Like the numbers of globe believers would probably go down a lot.
Well, if you had any kind of definitive proof, sure. But the issue is everything that I've seen so far doesn't control for, how this would actually work on a globe. Like every measurement of flat water just assumes the level is horizontal. Like a lot of things kind of go back to that. I know we get the claim of making assumptions, but I see a lot of assumptions on the other side in stuff like that. I think if someone did prove that the Earth was flat, sure, the paradigm would shift. I think, obviously. But what you said about like what we can and can't
measurements that would do it was my point originally.
I don't think it would be. Like again, the thing I was saying earlier about needing to do things oneself, right? Like we say we can't trust GPS, we can't trust optical measurements. If one were to go through all of the studies that Newton did on optics, build their own devices, understand fully how light works, and not take anything from, oh, Jesus Christ, not take anything from, from what anybody else says, but do all of that themselves. If they were to build the satellites that launch the GPS machines, write all the programming themselves. I mean, by the time you even got to that point, you would, I think, understood enough to know that what people are saying about these things can be trusted.
Are you still looking
at the real issue? Is that sorry?
Are you still looking at the screen, the screen share?
I walked away for a second. I'm looking at it now.
Look at how this sphere goes into an AE map. Look, boom.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is basically a sphere. This is like all the GPs on the sphere. And then boom, it goes to when you go to the bottom.
Kind of. I mean, it looks like an AE map, but you would need one of these. The bottom rings would have to be wider than the middle ones.
I'm just saying it's kind of showing that transition of what we were talking about, an azimuthal projection of like one side of a sphere. But the thing is, we know the world, yeah, like, and that's where the AE map kind of comes from too. But anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt what you were saying. I was listening too, but.
No, it's fine. I'm reminded a little, you've heard the joke, right, about the two flat earthers die and go to heaven?
I've heard some jokes.
Yeah, and basically they get up to the gate. St. Peter says, ask me any lingering questions you might have before entering heaven. And one asks, why in all of our adult life, as we've preached the flat earth to the glory of God and all this. Nobody believes us. Why is everybody so resistant to us revealing the truth to them? And Peter leans in and says, well, my son, I'm sorry to say, but the reason is the earth is actually a globe. To which he turns to his friend and says, this thing goes higher than we thought, Dave. So I feel like there's, and not obviously it's a joke, but there's some people who are like that, where you can put anything you want in front of them. I could name a couple actually, and it just won't matter, right? To them, it's just going to be more pawns on the table, more useful idiots who are providing a mouthpiece to the conspiracy. So again, I don't know what that tangible evidence would really look like, because it would have to be convincing to the Globers, which means it would have to be, I guess, vetted, so to speak. Like, there's a lot of things Taylor's done that I have issues with. If I were there with her, I would have made some very different suggestions. There's arguments I've heard from people like Jin about airplanes who don't seem to understand the non-exclusivity of those kinds of measurements or arguments. So I really don't know what's left except doing what's already been done, but doing it personally. So you remove all of the doubts of what might be an assumption or might be biased, and just from
there's a bunch of tests
principles.
No, but there's a bunch of tests that just have never been done before, and we've talked about them with, folks that think the Earth is a globe, folks that think the Earth is planar, stationary, people that think really all of the above, and even there's a few people that talk about concave sometimes.
Well, what's a for instance?
But like we've talked, what's that?
What's for instance? What's an example of something that you think would be conclusive to both sides?
Yeah, and I already know that. There's a bunch of people that would love to do the test, and many that people like, Zanuck and others that would love to see those tests done and would probably love to be a part of it to get to the truth. I just mentioned Zanuck first. I don't know why, but I guess I did just shout him out because I think he's always, and we've talked with him for years about a lot of tests. Yeah, no, there's a lot. There's 50 to 100 really, but I could, there's like the top 10, top 20. We'd have to, figure out exactly, but of all the ones I'm just saying all the ones we've talked about, and yeah, there's a lot of globe
Can you
folks.
Give me like one example
that we've had those conversations with, and then when we get down to it, like when we start breaking it down, a lot of the times there is the agreement that it would be, very strong and or definitive for them if it showed one or the other. But there's going to be a lot of in-betweens too, and exactly how it's done and how well it's documented and is it replicated, and of course, but yeah, there's some things that.
What's like one example?
Don't you think there's tangible measurements that if it showed planar that would change your view that it's not curved?
I think they've already been done, is my point.
They
just haven't personally been done by people who.
Where's there a tangible measurement of Earth curve?
LIGO? I would call that a tangible measurement.
Yeah, I think you should throw the fishing line out, do a cast for LIGO. But at the end of the day, though, they use GPS. We can't go there to really validate the exact. But yeah, in theory, if it was if we go there and check it or build that ourselves, then it could be, because it's a very straight tube is the idea. So yeah, if you can make a very straight tube, it should deviate from a sphere, or it should just stay planar over a plane.
One thing I'd be very curious about is if somebody went over and put like just 2 spirit levels on either end of that thing and see what they look like. I don't know that that's going to be definitive though, because either side could claim a whole lot about the outside of the tube versus the inside of the tube. Like there's a lot of things you'd have to measure, open it up and measure the actual walls of that tube at that point. Like there's always something I can think of for an invincible skeptic to pick at that they're gonna not accept something, right? Like, but
yeah, man. That could be the case in general, but I mean, there are many, many people that would like to see the results of some of these tests. And no, dude, I hear you. There would be everything in between. You would have people who are going to think things are fake. Some people are going to make other claims or things. Some people will maybe have their views changed, and other people will go against them or whatever. I mean, I wish for just like love and positivity for everyone, that we can all just do cool stuff and everyone be all good. But at the same time, to be realistic, some people will go through certain things on any kind of side, quote unquote. But I mean,
Yeah, and I don't like talking about sides because it does kind of the language itself is a little divisive. But I am curious, like, what is just one example of something you think would be like something you and Janik talked about, maybe?
well, I mean, yeah, you've probably talked about them with us too. You may have probably already heard them, some of them.
Probably,
I mean,
but they all have
one
problems.
of making a physical mold of the Earth, essentially a material that actually conforms to either what the surface of water ultimately would be one way. So you're getting the surface of water into a form or the surface of the Earth, a very level ground, and you're forming it into an actual, like a physical, like a mold of sorts.
So then you
That's
have to measure the mold, though. Like, how's
that's
that any different from measuring the Earth itself?
well, you could turn it on its side and pull a straight line.
Okay.
That's
I
one
mean,
way.
just the materials involved, I don't know that that's possible.
Well, we've talked about it pretty in depth many times, and there's a lot of good ideas with it. I think we could get several of those to go pretty solidly, in general.
That has all the problems of fourth the line and a couple extra.
So I think with all these, it's going to have to be a multi-pronged approach, like, to do this, like for anyone to do this, if it ever, because it's going to take a serious undertaking at the end of the day to like really do this. And even if you would imagine the idea of like I mean, this is just in like a hypothetical, because I'm not really even into TV and I don't even really want to be involved with them at all. And I really never would want to. But just like, how they have those like shows where it's like one team against the other or whatever, and they're trying to like compete or whatever. I'm not saying it would like be a TV model, but if you had the idea of like people that think the Earth is a sphere, people that think the Earth is planar, and that they're going to like, work together to do all these tests. But yeah, that's one of them, the physical mold test. And then another whole category is the one we've talked about. This one, you have to have either a very long wall or a very long like line of water. And if you have water, then it's level. And then you start measuring above that water line the claimed curvature of the globe. And then that would end up, if it was a globe, the level that you're going up from level would be a straight line.
Mm-hmm. Like what? I think I missed a step. You make a line under a water level?
Well, there's a few ways to do it. If you have a massive wall, you can draw a line on the wall, and then you can measure below. Okay, here's what you do. There's a couple ways, but let's say you're going to do it with water or with a line on a wall. Okay, those are the two main ones,
Mm-hmm.
two ideas. So this one's a different category, by the way. I mean, the first one was the actual making a physical mold of water or of the Earth. And there's a ton of details with that one, but I'm just saying this is a whole different one. This one involves a line on a wall or a water, like level water. If you have level water, let's just go with that. So what you would do is you'd have level water, like a really long canal, but it'd have to be really long. Or you can do it with a wall with a line on it. But anyways, that line is level. So all you need to do is make that line level.
Being
So
horizontal.
No, just level. Like whether level is curving or not, doesn't matter. You're just making it level. That's it. So
Okay.
if you have level water, that's the easiest because you just put a little mark right where the water level is, right? Just on the wall. Or you just draw a line. Let's say you draw a line right on the water level. So that's it. You got your level. As long as you think water's level, you're going off that, water's level. Then you start going along that level line that you already drew that's right on the water level, and you measure up 8 inches per mile squared. And you literally put marks on the wall physically. You go, let's say, an eighth of a mile. You do it, you measure up. You go another eighth of a mile. You measure up. So you're literally measuring with, as precise of tools as you can, the actual 8 inch per mile squared line. That's one way to do it. Then, if it was a globe, you would be making a straight line on the wall because you're going up 8 inches per mile squared. So you're counteracting the actual globe. And that line, the straight line, would be a different distance than the level line, and it would show globe. Vice versa, on a planar Earth, you're actually making a line that's going up, a curving upwards, because you just have a planar Earth. The plane is the plane. Therefore, the straight line one, the level line, will be the different distance than the short, than the
Okay.
shorter,
I don't know.
the shorter curved line. So it comes down to the distance of the arc length versus the actual straight line versus the arc length and the distances. So you'd have to actually measure the distance difference, and they would give an opposite result. Jeremy, this one he has said he thinks is like could be very definitive for him, and probably for a lot of others, because you're not going off any optics. You're only going off the optics of like being 12 inches away with your eyeballs or whatever it is to measure. And you can also use like machinery if you really wanted to measure the 8 inch per mile, upward. And then you do have to figure out
I got a phone call.
of the lines too, though.
I feel like whoever came up with that's over-engineered. There's a much simpler way to do that. You just start with a straight line, and similar to the mold of Earth idea, right? You take something that's like very, very long. It would have to be something very solid. You draw a straight line, and then you put it in water. Like maybe you could do it the length of a toe tank, for example. That might quench all those issues. You still have the issues of like materials deforming over that distance, though, which is the main problem with the force of line. It's the main problem with the mold of the Earth thing. Like all of these have kind of, I don't know why you would start with the level and then do it the other way. Either way, I get what you're saying. It's force the line again, right? You take something straight, you try and measure what level looks like compared to it.
Force the line was a bit different, but I hear you. There is some overlap in a way, although force the line kind of had a few different components. This one I'm talking about, basically, yeah, you're making an 8 inch per mile squared line, against what level is specifically, and then measuring the distances of those lines. And then they give such opposite results that, essentially the arc length would be shorter.
Yeah, no, I get it. You'd have to take it out of the water, put it on its side again. But again, you have kind of the same problems with the materials deforming.
Well, yeah, those are the two categories. And then another one is the one where you pull a line across the Earth and measure the weight to see if it's actually pressing into a sphere or if it's being pulled over a planar surface. That's another interesting category of tests. Of course, there's gyroscope tests as well. Star angle tests. See, that's what I'm saying, dude. Like, they're all my only point. Okay, like this all came up originally because I think your idea or your argument that like, oh, this stuff's all already been done, and you're convinced. But
well, the thing you mentioned with the line underwater, I mean, that's basically what we have from the toe tanks, right?
Well, they claim they have a very short distance that's why I mentioned it earlier. That is in the category of possible tangible measurements, because obviously that is out there, and that is, I mean, it's the military and everything else that's involved in that, but nonetheless,
Exactly.
that one is a claimed tangible, essentially. Yeah, it's claimed to
Right,
be.
but that's another one in the category of it exists, but people just want to do it themselves.
Well, yes, I would, of course. Like, do you take that as truth, the toe tank data?
Yeah,
Like, are you
yeah.
just
I think that's
okay?
pretty
So,
well substantiated.
yeah. So, but if you think that it's a viable test, then wouldn't you want to repeat it and see if it actually is occurring?
No, I mean I have plenty of other stuff that I think corroborates it. Um, I I'm not in doubt of what the shape of the Earth is.
Okay,
Um,
but if you saw any tangible test that showed it was not, like, is there anything that could prove to you that it's not curving then?
if you could prove
'Cause
that the
I mean, 'cause
conspiracy exists, yeah,
I think the tangibility ultimately would change the whole world,
I
essentially.
disagree.
It would
I
literally flip
think
the entire paradigm.
no, I think there's measurements that are far better done than tangible ones. Firstly, but if you're asking me what would change my mind, if you could show me evidence of the conspiracy, um, that would be a big step in the right direction
What if
because
we
that would
rep
have to be true.
Well, no, not necessarily. I mean, for you to just for it to be proven to you that it's planar is sort of different than how some people are, programming society or whatever. It's kind of like just what it is and what it is, just the nature of it.
Yeah, but I mean, you agree that it would have to be there would have to be a conspiracy if it were right. If the Earth is flat, there must be a conspiracy that's actively trying to disseminate that and push that onto the public, or hide the fuck my life, or hide that the globe is a lie.
Yeah, I would agree that there is definitely an organization going on here, an organized thing that is behind it all. So I would agree. And whatever term, like, I mean, people jokingly say like Illuminati, even though that is a thing, like the Bavarian Illuminati or whatever, the Freemasonic and networks and so on. But yeah, I mean, whether you think there's a whole gang like running things or not, and I hear you. Yeah, for the Earth not to be a sphere, it really would imply that there absolutely is. But that's kind of a whole separate area, though, because like what the Earth actually is, like, wouldn't that stand alone in your mind? Like, okay, like what just is it empirically? Then figure out what what is all going on with the world and what people are saying and what this mainstream quote unquote thing is, and like, yeah, I hear you on that. Like that would go on, but is there anything because we're talking about these tangible measurements? I think they would change the whole world. Now, you were saying like earlier, some people might accept them, might not. I hear you on that. Of course, some might accept it, some might not. But I do think there's enough professionals in the professional world that when they're shown evidence of the tangibility of that there's no curvature, that will not be able to be suppressed ultimately. And
I think we would have heard about it by now. Like the kinds of things that
who's done these tests
would
I'm
have
talking? Who's done them? No one in the modern era. That's what I'm
no,
saying.
we have though.
We have.
They just haven't been. They
There's a
haven't been
human
done
race
by.
these things.
We haven't done them. Like us and sitting in this Discord haven't done them personally, but people have done these things, right? Somebody created LIGO. Somebody had to do that according to a certain um, schema, and that had to have been passed through the hands of several engineers, scientists, et cetera, et cetera. Somebody would have noticed something here doesn't make sense. Like the kind of, especially such, and I think they're ridiculously silly claims. You might not agree, but when people say like that something is a second law of thermodynamics violation, like that would have been noticed long before any of us like
All
figured
right.
that
So
out.
your argument here is that somebody should have caught that the Earth is planar by now.
Yes, in a
Yeah,
very obvious way.
I'm not just gonna instantly disagree. I mean, that's an interesting idea. That you're saying somebody would have caught it. I mean, I'd have some arguments as to why that would not necessarily be the case in terms of what we have access to, like as if I were just to use the word like civilians, like what we actually have access to. But what about this idea though, that it would actually take millions of dollars to prove it? And the thing is, the people lying to us have billions, and then there's a gap of what they're claiming. Like even the LIGO thing. I mean, like let me ask you this: okay, if an independent team replicated LIGO and made it, and it showed that the Earth was not curving, and you could go check it, you could put your hands on it, double check it, take whatever tools you want, etc. Would you change your mind that it actually is planar if you saw it replicated and even was able to, validate it in any way you can or wanted to yourself? Like, is there nothing that could prove to you that, the shape of the Earth fully?
No.
Okay, the last thing was sort of
might do it. Yeah.
I was asking about the one thing, and then I asked a more general thing at the end. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that might do it. But I would have a lot of, vetting to do before I accepted it.
Yeah, and you could flip it the other side. If we did that, you could flip it the other side. If we did that and measured curve, would that would that show someone if it did actually show? I'm just saying, to be fair to the conversation of just whatever, just to be fair of the test part of it.
Oh, that's so interesting.
How many flat earthers would shift if actually? I mean, it's such a hypothetical. It's hard for me to even say, but yeah,
well, I know, but you said that, and I realized I was almost more skeptical when you made it. It shows curve. Like, I don't take LIGO to be the end all be all, right? It's just one in a very large stack of many different evidences. I hate using that word in the plural, but it would be, like I said before, a very large step in the right direction if some independent group made LIGO and I could test it and it had all the verification that the current LIGO has, and it turned out to be flat. That would be a big thing. I butt up against, because the reason I mentioned the conspiracy earlier is that is a huge hindrance for me. Like,
yeah, but dude, I think about that every day. I mean, I think about it all at times, all the time. Like, I mean, dude, I still wonder. I mean, I have many, like, I think I'm pretty tuned into what's going on with it all, but it's taken us all years to try to understand like how it's all happening, and it still blows my mind every day. Like in a certain way. I mean, it's like sad that there's a deception, but there's also another side that it's like just mind blowing how it's all coming to, how it's all actually occurring.
Yeah. Mind blowing is a vast understatement. Like, it's not so much the people involved, it's the actual nature of that conspiracy that I have really a hard time giving any probable existence to. Like the kind of super villain movie level sci-fi kind of stuff that would have to be going on. If you could demonstrate that exists, that would be